Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome once again to the With You For You MSME webinar series presented by Reliance General Insurance and powered by FinancialExpress.com, commemorating this MSME Day, the growth and hard work of entrepreneurs involved in the MSME sector. I'm Sandeep Soni, Senior Assistant Editor FE Aspire at FinancialExpress.com and moderator for the With You For You MSME webinar series, focusing on different aspects of challenges and opportunities in the MSME ecosystem. Our next webinar is on the topic Money, Market, Macroeconomics, Prepping for Transformational Growth of MSME. The government has envisioned significant growth in the MSME sector with jump in export share to 60%, 5 crore additional jobs, growth in GDP share to 40% and more in the next few years. This assumes significance in the backdrop of India's aim to soon become a 5 trillion economy and a 10 trillion economy in the next decade. However, to achieve this monumental feat, we believe it's critical for its MSME sector to see transformational growth by addressing the challenges around access to formal credit, easy regulatory environment, compliance burden, market expansion, and more. The panel in this webinar will share topical insights into these areas and will also highlight the impact of the existing support from the government schemes and benefits attached. Moreover, we would also understand how insurance for MSMEs can help them double down on their efforts to sustain and grow in a likely challenging business environment. In alphabetical order, our first speaker for the webinar is Mr. Amit Goyal, Director and Principal Officer, Ragnall Insurance Broking and Risk Management. Mr. Goyal is a fellow member of the Insurance Institute of India and management graduate from XLRI. He specializes in corporate insurance solutions, risk assessment, client relationship management, and strategic business development. Our next speaker is Mr. Ashish Jam, Director and Chief Operating Officer, Infina Insurance Broking. Inspired by his grandfather, late Mr. C.D. Jam, who was an Executive Director at LIC, Mr. Jam turned entrepreneur at an early age. He started Infina Insurance Broking in 2015 and Infina Reinsurance Broking in 2021. Infina is today a leading insurance broking company in the SME space and has significant presence in the reinsurance space. Our following speaker is Mr. Sandeep Kishore Jain, President of the Federation of Indian Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises, FESME, an IIT Kanpur alumnus. Mr. Jain is also the owner and managing director at Solo Components, a manufacturer and exporter of automotive parts in India. He is also an alumnus of the prestigious Indo-German Manager Training Program and is actively involved in Indo-German events organized by GIZ. Joining now is Mr. Shalabh Srivastav, Director, Policy Q Insurance Brokers. Mr. Srivastav has over 2 decades of experience spread over insurer and broking industry. He has worked in leading capacity with insurer and broking organizations and have been instrumental in setting up various verticals in insurance broking. Thank you, Mr. Jain, Mr. Goyal, Mr. Jam, Mr. Srivastav for taking out time and joining us today. So I'll come to you, Mr. Jain, representing the MSMEs through FESME, which is perhaps one of the largest MSME associations in the country. When we talk about the current situation scenario of the MSME sector in India, and we talk about how it can get on the path of transformational growth, how do you see this challenge around informal enterprises looking to move to formal enterprises? So this concept of informal to formal, do you think moving MSMEs into formal economy can have a greater impact on the overall growth of the sector? We'll begin with this question, Mr. Jain.
Yeah, thank you, Sandeep. There is a peculiarity of the Indian MSME sector. 99% of MSMEs in India are the micro, or the tiny units, the tiny enterprises, and hence largely informal, which means that they are out of the regulatory and the formal support system. Small and medium account for just 1%.
Yeah.
And of which the mediums are just 25 to 30,000 out of a total MSME strength of more than 6 crores. So the vast majority of informal entrepreneurs are primarily self-employed survivalists, is what we call them.
Yeah.
Because the state and economy have failed to offer them a decent job, and they have chosen to do something on their own and not take the path of crime. This is a worldwide phenomenon, and especially in countries which are poor, they exhibit this trait. Informality has low barriers. One could borrow vegetables and start selling them by the street side. If one has a cycle or a two-wheeler, one could be a Zomato, Swiggy, porter driver. There is no entry barrier for the informal sector, but dealing with authorities still remains a huge task. A bulk of the small entrepreneurs work from homes or from areas which are perceived as not authorized. Urban local body reforms are needed for recognizing businesses in unauthorized or perceived unauthorized areas and accorded dual use options. What has happened traditionally is that these bodies, the urban local bodies, have formed only recently, and cities have been there since centuries. The old areas, the ownership documents of the properties there, that's a big question mark. And simply with the new rules which have come into place with these urban local bodies, they treat these dwellings where the informal businesses run from as unauthorized. It leads to extortion and exploitation. A large number of reforms are needed for majority of the people in the informal sector to rise from informality to the formality. But at the same time, a little caveat here and a warning here that we cannot and should not move them forcefully.
Yeah.
Many a times government has programs of moving people from unauthorized areas, from informal business-oriented people, and putting them somewhere else, calling it development. That should not be done. It wreaks havoc with these people. So the need to move from informal to formal is recognized. FISME has been championing this. And as we go along this discussion, I will give some more ideas as to how this can be achieved.
So I'll come to Mr. Goel. I believe the company yourself is built. I think it's also more or less in the MSME segment also. So how do you see this? This concept of the importance of getting these MSMEs from informal nature to formal nature. How have you set up your business to have a formal structure? And how kind of that has helped your business to grow, not just from the insurance perspective, but overall as an entity, as a business.
Right. So I totally agree with what Mr. Jain had just said, and I totally feel that moving MSMEs into the formal economy, this is going to be a crucial step towards unlocking their full potential. Not only unlocking the potential, but even maximizing the impact of the SMEs on the economy, on the formal economy. So there is a lot of value to gain for all the stakeholders by moving the SMEs into the formal economy. So before this call, I was just sharing with Mr. Sandeep Jain that most of the SMEs are operating like lifestyle businesses. Most of these the entrepreneurs who run the SME organizations, they don't want to reinvest money into the either into taxation, or they don't want to reinvest the money into growth of their businesses. But that is seeing a drastic change now. Since you specifically asked about us, even we used to operate like a lifestyle business, 5 years back, and once we started moving into the formal organizational structure, so a lot of changes that accrued to us in terms of how we were being recognized by the market, how we were being recognized by all the stakeholders, where the business was emanating from. So I think if the SMEs are provided the necessary support by simplifying processes, which our regulator has been kind enough to do it over the last so many years. So by simplifying processes, by offering incentives, governments and stakeholders can all empower the SMEs, and that will then create a lot of value in terms of the entire economy thriving, jobs being created, sustainable economic growth being happening here. So together we will all have to probably create an environment for MSMEs to flourish, and I think movement of MSMEs from informal to formal economy will help us all do that.
Mr. Jam, so Mr. Goyal talked about, moving from informal to formal value creation. How do you see this as an MSME in the insurance space, in insurance broking space? How that can be brought in within the business?
I think thank you, Sandeep, at the outset for inviting us and hosting this webinar like last year, and a
Thank
topic
you.
which is very close to my heart personally on the SME and the MSME sector. The point that Mr. Goyal has raised and Mr. Jain is very valid about how do we formalize and try and get them the the rules, regulations, and benefits for what
Mm-hmm.
large companies can give. See, in our insurance sector, as what Amit just mentioned, the
Mm-hmm.
regulator has taken quite a number of steps. And for example, there was these special policies that the regulator had come up during COVID called the Lagu Sukshma and Lagu Udyam. These were all
Mm-hmm.
for the small scale industry as well as MSME for, and the criteria was laid that the sums insured should be 50 crores and below. So the
Mm-hmm.
idea is that they should be allowed to come under the net, and the policy wordings were also more relaxed as compared to a
Mm-hmm.
regular corporate. So the entire wordings were also, that was the first step, I would say, to
Mm-hmm.
this. The other thing was also trying to bring health insurance under the net of these plays, where we again saw that the MHA guidelines had come out during COVID, wherein they started saying, okay, even a small scale industry should have a health insurance policy for his workers. So this, the step that we all need to take is that since this is very promoter driven, see, in an SME, what happens, the decision maker is normally the promoter or somebody
Yep.
sitting there. So he has to be convinced, okay, boss, you need to take attention to insurance in good time. You should not treat it like an expenditure. It's something which is
Yeah.
very important. You'll be totally out of business tomorrow if your policy is not good, because you may not
Mm-hmm.
have the kind of wherewithal which a large corporate has, were a flyer or a flood to take place and you're not adequately insured. So this incident should not happen. So the education, bringing their attention of the promoter family in good time to insurance as subject matter is very critical, and we at Infina all the time do that, where our job is actually to bring attention of the decision makers in the SME towards insurance as subject matter. And as I
Mm-hmm.
also mentioned, that the regulatory push is there. New products are, of course, some have come in, but yet very little has been done. A lot more needs to be done. So the regulator is, of course, we've got a free market wording regime right now after April 1. So IRD also wants to, push in more and more wordings, more and more packages have to be evolved, and not only in, say, health or fire or property insurance. It should also be in the liability space, because you're exposed to huge number of legal liabilities, and SME is not even aware of that. So
Yeah.
the entire thing, it has to be a constant process, an education process, and constant, and the intermediary force can you really help in drawing attention of promoters to insurance as subject matter. So education is the key word, and awareness.
Education and awareness. Mr. Srivastava, I'll come to you, sir.
Yeah.
Education and awareness. I think it's also important with respect to the schemes that the government offers to small businesses and MSMEs. Um, how I mean, how well aware you are about these schemes? Have you taken benefit of any of these schemes? And overall, how do you see the overall growth of the MSMEs ecosystem, your growth, the business growth? I'm assuming it's within the MSME realm only. You can throw more light on that.
Okay. So thank you so much, Sandeep, for inviting me. No, it's a pleasure to be on the speaker side along with Mr. Sandeep ji. So, and Ashish, I've met him at times also in some of the seminars at Brokers Meet, and with Amit also. So I'll give a little background. See, I have worked a lot on the rural and government business side, and that too on the
Mm-hmm.
marginalized people. So be it
Mm-hmm.
individual farmers or there are POs, and on the poultry side, on the livestock side. So in
Mm-hmm.
my insurance career, I've done a lot of work on that side. And if you see, the government schemes are there from beginning, but still,
Mm-hmm.
in spite of having the government scheme, the penetration is
Mm-hmm.
very, very poor. I mean, whether you talk about the crop insurance scheme, whether you talk about the poultry schemes. So,
Mm-hmm.
one very important factor, especially on the MSME side, that is lifespan of a SME. Normally, the risk appetite is very, very low. So normally the lifespan is ranges from 5 to 8 years. So let's take example of poultry side. So where the poultry guys, if there is a disease outbreak, they're completely washed out. In
Mm-hmm.
spite of having government schemes where the culling and all is being done and they are being compensated, the compensation are being done on the basis of the rules and regulations which are set long time back in 2008. Now, suppose something which is being set in 2008, now
at that point of time, retail egg used to be come for 0.5, that is for 50 paise. Now the egg comes in the market for 5 rupees, but the compensation to those people are still on the same lines. So for those marginalized people in the SME segment, I mean, they're completely washed out. They are not ready to come in the business again, right? So the government schemes, the revision, the amendments are very, very important as far as MSME is concerned. That is one aspect. Second, the awareness and penetration is very, very important. Still, most of the marginalized people are either uninsured or underinsured. So even in the event of the claim, either they are not part of the gamut of the insurance itself, or they are very, very low paid. So that that creates a huge space, that there's a distrust in the MSME segment for the insurance as well. So government has to take some steps based on technology, or some OTC products, wherein the orientation to these people needs to be spread. So that's very important aspect what I feel. And
Okay.
awareness can
Okay.
be, there's so many modes through which awareness can be spread to these people.
Okay, I'll come back on the question of what more schemes government can introduce purely from insurance adoption perspective. But Mr. Jain, I'll come back to you.
I'll just take one
Yeah.
moment. Recently, there was a scheme which was being introduced by state government of Kerala in
Yes.
2023.
Correct.
You
Correct.
might be aware.
Yep.
So
Yep.
see, the scheme was, the intent was very good, because they had said that 50% of the annual premium what the MSME is going to pay, that will be refunded by the district industry commerce. Now, the only challenge which was there, why this scheme was not so successful, that the reimbursement limit was set to 2,500 rupees, which is very, very low. So it means anything above 5,000 is not going to get any reimbursement. So that doesn't sounds great for someone who's taking an insurance, because insurance is not that cheap for even for the MSME segment. So these are some
Okay.
takeaways which needs to be addressed to the right authorities and the right time, so that these schemes can be revived and put it in a right way, so that the benefits can be actually on intrinsic basis.
Intrinsic basis. Very well said. Mr. Jain, beyond insurance, when we look at the overall MSME system, a number of regulatory compliance measures have been either eased or removed by the government in the last 5 to 10 years. Still, what are the areas you think need to be looked at in the current Modi 3.0, purely from the perspective of enhancing ease of doing business among MSMEs?
Yeah, so we all know that for MSMEs, finance is very important. Finance has been the main issue in any forum that you hear an MSME leader talk. It will primarily be finance. There are two other barriers also, and these are where reforms are required. And these could be labor or fire or taxation. Also, taxation can come into finance in a way, but there is also the indirect taxation where this comes in. So I'll just give you an example.
Yeah.
ISME had recently conducted a study in Meerut in UP, and this was done at the behest of the MP from there, a very senior, very respected member of parliament from there. And he said that what if we have to quadruple the GDP of Meerut, what needs to be done?
Okay.
And that is what triggered this study. And it emerged that the micro units there, which run into thousands, had a problem that the authorities consider their place of work as unauthorized. I refer to my earlier submission where I said that cities grow over centuries and urban local bodies come only now. And therefore, we feel, other than finance, regularizing and allowing working from home and residential areas, maybe with suitable caveats to the size of the unit and what area you can cover it. And establishing suitable flexibility in rules to prioritize and resolve unauthorized constructions through a real world pragmatic compounding scheme. That is the need of the hour. Below a threshold, people working from home should not be levied with property tax based on commercial or industrial. They definitely don't come under industry because they're not running factories out of there. They're enterprises and businesses and mostly traders. And the moment you say that we are doing this, oh, this is not residential, this is commercial. Their power bills are rated on the commercial tariff, which is much, much higher. Now, these are tiny units, informal mom and pop shows.
Absolutely.
And you impose commercial, what you are probably charging from a mall, you can't really charge from these. This needs a reload. And then they have employees who are probably from the local area, local mohalla or whatever, even family members, extended family members. Now, of course, on one hand, you need to secure their social security and stuff like that. But then you also have to look at it from the owner. Now, typically these small units, they don't run on a owner and employee basis. They are all, it's a group sort of an activity. Of course, there is one owner who has put in the capital and the money. So cost of social security, etc., for the labor working here. And there is an example I want to give to you, and which is very important in today's times. Things like GST on e-commerce. It starts at 1 rupee sale, and suppose I'm selling in 10 states or 5 states, I need to have a GST registration in every state. Now, this is a classic example that there is a lady manufacturing papad, or making or whatever you may call it. She makes papads. Her papads are very popular. Now somebody gives her an idea, maybe her own children give her an idea, mom, you can increase the sale by going e-commerce way. But she can't. The moment she wants to go onto the e-commerce platform, she needs to have a registration number.
GST.
She needs to have a registration number in every state that she wants to sell in. Or she settles to sell it to a trader who has all these registrations and all these resources in place. And then she loses onto her individuality. This guy will buy for 5 rupees, sell at 20 rupees. Probably make more money than the poor lady is making.
Correct.
So these, of course, there may be some reasons why GST was made from 1 rupee on e-commerce. I don't know that exactly. I'm sure there is a reason, but who got affected was the informal micro enterprise. So, we have to look at the overall picture to make it easy for these informal and the micro.
Understood. So taking on the discussion on the regulatory and compliance measures, Mr. Goyal, in an insurance business as an entity, perhaps in the MSME sector, what regulatory, let's say, and compliance measure you would want for the government to look at? I mean, it could be around credit, it could be around export, it could be around, I'm not sure, marketing. I mean, any services as a business. What are those areas of regulatory and compliance you would want the government to look at to perhaps ease of doing business for you?
So I will, speak about, a very, very relevant, issue that we face, especially in insurance for SMEs. Now, Ashish, during his previous conversation spoke about the awareness and the education aspect. So while that is very, very relevant, I think one area that we need to look at, especially when doing insurance for MSMEs, is the confidence that SME has while buying insurance. Because the confidence of the SME normally does not result, in the payment of, a loss if it occurs. And I think that is tied directly to the regulatory and to the compliance measures that, as an industry, we've not been able to implement. For an SME to claim insurance, probably they have to prove that, they are the most honest citizen of the country before an insurance can be claimed. So you need to be GST compliant, you need to have a fire NOC, you need to have all the factory approvals. Now we feel that as an industry, as a distributor of insurance interacting with several hundred SMEs, every year, we've seen that most of these SMEs do not comply with a lot of, compliance measures routinely. Now, those are routine non-compliances and not deliberate non-compliances.
Right.
But, you cannot claim insurance, if you have not complied with any of those, regulatory, whatever, is applicable to them at that point of time. So as an industry, I think we will have to, and we have been, suggesting this to our regulator, to our industry bodies as to, how we can overcome this challenge that the SMEs are facing, so that, we can build up a lot of confidence in those SMEs to buy insurance. So if the confidence increases, obviously, so you can see that, you can relate that to the penetration of health insurance, which has been going up by almost 17%, on a compounded annual growth rate.
Yeah.
So I think SME can also have that, SME insurance can also have that kind of a growth rate, provided as an industry we are able to build that confidence among SMEs to buy insurance. So I think, from a regulatory perspective and also from a, and from an industry perspective, we will have to work towards building that confidence.
Okay, confidence building measure. Mr. Jam, you agree on that? And secondly, also, I wanted to touch upon the the competitiveness angle as a business. I'm sure because there's a significant competition in the area that you operate. So how you as a business you strengthen your competitiveness as a small business as an MSME to take on your competitors and probably have a better competition.
Sure. So Sandeep, see, as regards to competitiveness, yes, what Amit mentioned and Jain Saab have mentioned, and everybody else on the forum have spoken. I think, see, by and large, we are in agreement with the issues that the SMEs face, be it on compliances of, be it finance, be it on aspects. So one thing that is happening in a competitive world, where we need to do is what we do is we have to focus on value adds. See, the only
Okay.
way the price is a commercial angle. Unfortunately, everybody thinks being a great price negotiator is the best way to win business because unfortunately, the Indian market has been following that trend in a soft market space. When the market happens and when there's regulatory intervention, we suddenly go and move to a very tough regulation like what happened a few years ago when the Insurance Information Bureau rates and treaty endorsement circular hit from GIC because the losses were just unbearable for them. So that kind of aspect as to meet competition with competitors, value adds is there as the primary tool which should be used. Educating a customer, constantly talking to him, constantly giving him new solutions and newer products with simplistic approach. Now there was one more aspect that was spoken about credit. Very little amount of credit is available. Financial need for MSME is a big thing. Why should trade credit insurance policies not be designed specifically for MSME? I
Absolutely.
treat them like anything. Or surety bonds, which are being used for NHAI projects now, which the Ministry of Road Transport has cleared under Mr. Gadkari's thing.
Yeah.
The last government Modi 2.0 did it, now 3.0 is continuing it. And this big aspect, if surety bonds is allowed to be given to SME sector, I think the huge of monetary relief that they will get and their borrowing, the limits will increase. They'll have more money to do business to, in the right way. And that is, see, where are we on insurance? I'll tell you, in the world as GDP, we are number 5 right now. Okay, Modi ji wants us to become number 3. That's one of the aspirations of the Prime Minister.
Correct.
Now, in insurance, in general insurance, if I say, we are say 17 to 20, we are somewhere around 20. So there is so much more needed to be in penetration that we all need to work towards building.
Yeah.
It can happen, new products, getting solutions, which is going to be meaningful to them, more result-oriented solutions, just not solutions what we were just discussing. Okay, there were a lot of government schemes, but the result orientation sometimes doesn't really
Not
happen.
there.
So
Correct.
that all that has to be removed. And we
Mm-hmm.
solutions which are going to be high impact, and easy policies. Like, for example, I'll tell you a small example because we all have homes. A home insurance policy is also very complicated. So can we make it so simple that we should have very few exclusions? Okay, it's an agreed value policy. You've taken 1 crore ko claim aayega to aapko 1 crore milega. That is what a person here. Okay, you can adequately price it. Unfortunately, our industry pricing was also very controlled. If you adequately price it, the reinsurers agree to it. Why not? People will be willing to take. So these are things which, as an industry, we need to do from the insurance part. And I think because the growth that these verticals in private insurance companies and even public sector insurance companies is showing huge group as has 40 to 50% growth in business in the SME sector so if that being the kind of growth that can happen, so the opportunity is humongous, and I see a absolute very very bright future for insurance professionals as well as for getting good solutions for the SME.
So, Mr. Srivastava, so Mr. Jam talked about simplification, the entire process. Uh, Apart from that, I also want to touch upon with you the role of technology, how digital technology in the business that you are in, insurance broking, can help enterprises like you to expand your operations. If you can throw light on the technology side also, sir, for our audience.
Yes, so that's very, very important. Technology is going to play a huge role and started playing. In fact, in the last 5, 6 years, we have seen that it has really evolved in the insurance industry. And a lot of things have come on the technology, which provides obviously the ease of business. And obviously, it's also cuts the administrative and other costs, which ultimately can be passed on to the ultimate user. So as far as MSME segment is concerned, it will actually play a very pivotal role, because once you have technology, obviously you can pass on the benefits to the ultimate user, where the cost effectiveness is very, very important.
True.
Designing some OTC products which are technology driven is obviously one aspect of selling the insurance product for better penetration to the MSME segment. Second, the most important aspect, I believe, is the post sale service. So nowadays the major challenge with the MSME segment is when there is a claim, because that is the primary reason why they are taking an insurance, and obviously the financial security comes with in the event of the claim only, right?
Interesting.
So unless they are confident that in the event of the claim, I am financially secure, which is the basic premise of taking an insurance. So the technologies has to come in the picture, which still lacks, especially in the MSME segment, because larger corporates, larger enterprise, they have all the know-hows, they know how to take a claim from the insurer. But as far as MSME segment, because still if you see, the more than 50% of the MSME business comes from the banker channel, which is their financer. Now, there the literacy, insurance literacy is very, very low.
Yeah.
Most of the insurances are happening on the amount of financing. So ultimately, which leads to a huge under insurance or a partial insurance. So in the event of the claim, the neither the insurer is aware that what claim amount is actually adequate to be paid, and nor the banker is aware. So there, a technology can play a major role, because once the root is the bank, because ultimately the funding is happening from the bank.
Correct.
If the banking sector is the proper orientation and technology can be provided to them, which can be linked to this MSME segment, so that the entire record of their property, of the assets, and everything was there on one platform. Even if they are securing only a partial asset, it can give a lot of leverage to an insurer or an insurance expert, so that the insurance can be done properly and adequately. And obviously, in the event of the claim, we need to customize the claim system, because we can't ask for the same set of documents in the process which are asking from a larger enterprise, because neither they have such kind of people who can complete those level of documentation, and not so they are so well equipped to handle this.
Correct.
So
Correct.
the claim solution also needs to be customized and needs to be technology driven. So I'll give you an example. Nowadays, parametric products are very much in the
Yeah.
play. So here we can always think of designing some parametric product for this segment. So recently, I'll tell you, we were working on some parametric product for dairy insurance. Okay.
Okay.
So again, they also fall under the SME segment only. So what happens then, especially during the heat wave season, there's a loss of production of the milk. So if suppose the temperature goes beyond a particular level in the 10 days in continuation, the claims are being triggered and paid without any single documentation, because
I
the
see.
trigger point is parameter itself. So
Yeah.
these kind of customization are very, very important, which should provide an ease of settling a claim to the ultimate user. So this will give a financial security as well, with the ease of claim settlement. Obviously, that this will build up their confidence in the insurance industry.
Understood. Understood. Very well put, sir. Mr. Jain, sir, as a representative, as the head of BISME, I'm sure you talk to multiple MSMEs day in, day out, and I'm sure you had talked about insurance aspect also. So during these conversations, do you realize that these MSMEs, especially micro and small enterprises, they look at insurance in a certain way, probably more as an expense and less as a safety net. So what's the understanding, on insurance, especially around these micro and small businesses, to kind of help in better penetration of insurance among these enterprises?
All the speakers before me have said what they have said is what really I wanted to point out to them. So I'm so glad that they understand the issue here. I mean, the issue of education, the issue of post-sale service, the value add, the surety bond, the simplification. These are exactly the points which I wanted to say. I wanted to bring to their notice that MSMEs today, what are we using? We are using the very old, very simple vanilla products only. When you take a bank loan, the bank insists that you need to get the collateral what you're offering insured. You do that, or somebody comes and tells you that Mr. Jain, you're the sole person running this unit, and the unit depends on you. You should get key man. or life insurance of some kind, health insurance for MSMEs during COVID. And these are the simplest of the products that we know. Whereas I wanted to bring to the notice of the smart young gentleman here on the insurance is don't look at it only from your insurance point of view, but also look at it from risk. There are a whole lot of risk products which are available in the rest of the world. I mean, they have data, they study that data, they analyze data, and they put a number to the risk, and they start offering it as a product. It's not just insurance against a disaster or against some kind of an accident or something. It is risk. There is risk in everything we do. All our processes, from starting with raw material purchase to manufacturing to reaching the product to the end customer, there is a risk involved at every stage. And only a very few number of risks are currently secured through insurance. I'm really glad that Ashish mentioned about surety. I have mentioned this day before yesterday in the pre-budget consultation with the FM, that why don't we have more and more insurance surety replacing bank guarantees?
Yes.
And I was pleasantly informed by the Secretary Finance that the central government PSUs, and you mentioned road, I think, Mr. Gadkari, and the power grid, they have started accepting insurance sureties in case of bank guarantees. But they have to percolate down to the lowest level, to the MSME level. 25% of the government purchases secured from MSMEs.
Yes.
And all government tenders, whether state or central, require a bank guarantee, which is expensive. It is understood. Ashish already mentioned that it blocks my working capital. Banks even ask for collaterals to give you a bank guarantee. So insurance, if they are able to perceive the risk and put a number and give us a insurance surety against bank guarantee, that would be fantastic. And that FISMA has already requested for that. More and more products should be encouraged. So I'm very happy to hear that some of the pain points that MSMEs have to move from plain vanilla insurance products to more risk-based product. Trust has to be built in, and I think Amit mentioned that, even Shalabh mentioned that risk is. Trust is something that MSMEs look at. Taking an insurance today, if you read the fine print, it is really fine. And as I'm growing a little older with specs, I really find that to be too fine to be able to read in a policy. And because it comes from where? Because you have inherent mistrust. जब मुझे चाहिएगा तो मिलेगा कि नहीं मुझे इंश्योरेंस का पैसा. So I must read the document. The document is in the finest of prints that is. So that mistrust or existing trust deficit has to be removed. And I think the government is with you guys. They are already accepting insurance sureties. MSME is ready to work with you guys.
Very interesting. Mr. Goyal, I'll come to you. Mr. Jain talked about risk-based solutions. Mr. Jam also touched upon it. What, according to you, can be the tailored insurance solutions for MSMEs as per the size and requirement? I'm sure a number of them also exist. If you can throw light on the existing ones, and probably if we need to introduce more such tailored insurance solutions depending upon how the market is.
So I think we are moving in the right direction, Sandeep, where more and more tailored solution is the answer. So there is one very small but very significant change that we are seeing in again on the SME side is because of climate change. We've started seeing claims in sectors where we haven't we hadn't seen. I've been staying in Bombay for the last 45 years, and we've never seen a cyclone happening on the western coast of the country. In the last 4 years, we've seen 2. And we've seen that basically it is the SMEs who bear the maximum brunt, during these kind of, incidents, of cyclones or floods or, the earthquakes happening all across the country very, very fairly regularly. And in areas where we hadn't seen that, happening any time earlier. So we are, in fact, currently as we speak, we are talking to one of the largest SME organizations, as Shalabh mentioned, for a parametric solution where, if the wind speed is higher, than a degree, we end up compensating all the SMEs in that area by a fixed amount. Sandeep ji also mentioned about, the entire journey that an SME, right from purchasing goods to, shipping goods. So there is a parametric cover that we've designed, for delay in insurance, for delay of shipments. Now, in most of the cases, in time critical, cargoes, where the cargo has to reach during a specific period of time. In marine insurance, we do not cover delays at all. So any kind of loss attributed to delay is not covered. We've designed a cover, a parametric cover, which is again linked to blockchain, and we just compensate, the insured or the consignee in that case, for a delay. Now, these are the kind of covers that we will all have to think, and I think it will have to be a joint exercise between organizations like FISME and the insurance industry, so that we can understand the kind of risk that the SMEs are facing, deeply, and then probably design cover rather than giving standard coverages which are not triggering or just not paying the customer at the time of need.
Correct.
So I think risks and then solutions, designed specifically to cover those risks is what we require rather than standard products.
Mr. Jam, I would want your perspective on the same question on tailored solution, customized solutions.
See, this is a very valid question, and what Jain Saab also said, that if so much is available worldwide, why can it not come into India? So, insurance regulator on 1st of April came up with the idea that we can free up policy wordings. The insurance sector, you see, we had to follow standard wordings for standard fire and special policy or industrial all risk policies and the like. So, say business interruption, loss of profit. The SME sector was not exposed to these kind of covers, which are very relevant. Also, the compliance of these was very difficult. So, more tailored solutions can come through. More parametric solutions is a move where there is a talk about how parametric can be given to the marine insurance, or parametric can happen in crop insurance, or parametric can happen in dairy insurance. These are all what clause basis. Okay, these are all like different innovative products. So these solutions, along with these solutions to the financial aid, what can come like credit insurance or surety bonds, what we spoke about, these kind of packages, and coming at an economical price. You see, ultimately, these people don't have that much money to spend. But education, okay, you need to spend money or allot money for this particular thing. That is going to be the future. Because you see, look at our economy, such a big segment of our economy, the contribution is from the SME space. The massive. So this is a sector which we cannot leave ignored. It's doing a disservice to this nation if at all as all stakeholders keep the sector ignored. And the government initiative is also to promote these industries. You see, I'll tell you a very simple thing. Yesterday I had gone to Jaipur, okay, and on the weekend, and we had just seen that went to some handicrafts, and Jaipur is known for all those things, right? So the only thing that I remembered is that the Prime Minister mentioned in one of his speeches that whenever you go to any of these smaller places, please buy some handicraft or some piece of art and all. It will promote the artisans over there. And you will not believe it was with me, and we landed up buying so many things and such beautiful that at such a low cost, and they were so happy that you are buying. So ultimately, helping the economy in terms of solutions, economic push is very necessary. And I think it's a collective responsibility. And what Jain Saab mentioned, if the MSME board can take our voice about these products to the ministry and the right forums, a lot of changes can happen, because we as the insurance industry can work with them to come up with solutions, and I'm quite sure government will be very open-minded.
So there's a request for Mr. Jain. But coming to Mr. Srivastav, so Mr. Jam talked about economical solutions and affordability aspect also. So I would want to ask you how we can make these insurance solutions, if it's affordable, how we can make them further affordable for especially micro and small units.
So that's very important aspect, because for them, every single penny is very, very important and critical. That to spend on insurance, because that's not their part of primary business. but yes, it is critically important for them. So see, here I believe government also needs to come in picture, because they need to come up with some subsidies or maybe some kind of support system which can make it little more cost effective for them. So say I'll just throw this idea to Jansab also. What we see in MSME segment, the rate of interest is very high when they are going for their capital acquisition or maybe for working capital financing. I mean, what I see, it ranges more than 15%, go up to 22, 23, 24% as well. So no, here we can promote insurance. That someone is buying insurance, government should have some kind of scheme wherein the interest rates can be lowered. It can be linked with them, or maybe some tax SOPs can be given to them who are spending on especially the compulsory insurances like property, fire, natural calamities, so that it becomes more affordable also for them, and it brings a lot of interest also of this segment for buying an insurance, which will ultimately be very, very important and critical for them.
Understood. Understood. So I think it was a lovely interaction. But before we leave, I would request each one of you to have a parting thought, one final thought. We'll begin with Mr. Jain. Can have a 30-second thought on the subject that we discussed, apart from insurance, also overall ecosystem. Mr. Jain.
I would like to place on record that I'm very happy that some of the pain points regarding insurance that the MSME sector feels is understood by all the gentlemen here. And I would say that we need to work together. FISME is open, our secretariat is open for you guys to tell us where you want your voice to be reached. We will try our best. And yes, insurance for MSMEs is an important sector. FISME is with you on this. We have, Ashish mentioned, we have already taken the insurance surety request from our side, and I'm glad that it is also a need for you, to the FM already, and it is well received by all the people in that group. So, yes, insurance for MSMEs is a subject that we will continue to talk about.
All right, Mr. Goel, your last 30 seconds thought.
So I second, Sandeepji's thought over here, and I'm glad that to be part of this, elite discussion also. And I think we will all have to work together, to drive better insurance penetration amongst MSMEs. So I think all the relevant points were discussed, and I can commit from, I think, from not only from our company, but from even the entire industry perspective, that we're all geared up, and we're all waiting, and we're all geared up to see that MSMEs get the right insurance, and we are able to serve them as well.
Interesting. Mr. Jam.
Anyway, thank you Sandeep, for having us, and it was a very enriched discussion. And the takeaway from this, according to me, is that we are getting the government perspective, if about the push and the right synergy between various government departments and our insurance industry can create extremely good result-oriented solutions for the MSME sector, and we are very committed to working towards those solutions. And I think, as Jain Saab said, we should continue this dialogue. And Sandeep, you can be a good anchor in seeing that we can have further dialogues and bring it to a meaningful level. Because it should discussion which we had in a webinar today on to commemorate a particular day, it should be more result oriented and impactful to the sector that we are discussing today.
For sure, absolutely. I'll make sure of that. Mr. Srivastava.
Yeah, so it was a very insightful discussion, and thanks to everyone. So I'll be picking up so many enriching points from here. And yes, just my takeaway is that we should have some collaborative initiatives between all the parties, which are the stakeholders to this MSME segment, be the insurer side, be on the financer side. So collaborative initiatives are very, very important. That then only it will ultimately reach to the ultimate user. And obviously, a policy level integration is also very important and critical in this segment. And obviously, then incentivization to the segment and awareness. These are my takeaways, and I think these are very critical aspects.
Interesting. Great. Thanks a lot. I think that was a lovely interaction with a lot of insights and around the current scenario of the MSME ecosystem and how it can be scaled further. Obviously, talking about the insurance as a critical aspect. Thank you once again, Mr. Goel, Mr. Jam, Mr. Jain, Mr. Srivastava, for giving us your valuable time and thoughts. I'm sure our audience will also benefit from it. Goodbye. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.